The state of education in the US, frankly, I would say is a bit dismal. If you're talking about college, um, I would say to look to the graduation rates. For example, the 6-year college grad rate is 62%. That means that more than a third of students aren't finishing college within 6 years. Students are coming out of high school unprepared, and then colleges are failing them.
My name is Andre McGee.
And your classification?
My major?
Right.
Major is biology. I don't have a main focus at the moment, just the whole field. So.
My name is Michael Tidwell. I am a senior interdisciplinary studies major, focusing in biology, sociology, and political science. I am a member of Tri Beta Biological Honor Society and the chapter president of the Rho Epsilon chapter of Sigma Lambda Beta International Charity Incorporated. I went to Woodland High School in Cartersville.
Advanced placement is a program that allows students to experience college level classes, which can help them demonstrate college readiness. A lot of colleges really like to see that on an application, and if they've done well in those classes, it signals that they are frankly ready to do so at the next level.
So far as academics, in 8th grade, I was put into an accelerated science program. So my 8th grade science year, I was actually taking 9th grade. I would test out of the science for 9th grade. So I finished my 4 years of science in 11th grade, so I can have an extra elective my senior year. I started with, physical science in 8th grade. And then I never took an AP science course. I took honors chemistry in 10th grade, and I took honors biology in 9th grade. But I was in AP courses. I was in AP US History and AP Language and Composition.
There's also the opportunity to earn college credit if you pass the AP exams, and that can save you money in the long run. So there's value as well, but that's if a college accepts the AP credits and allows you to apply them towards your degree program. And a lot of colleges don't do that anymore.
It is. I think I started off with AP, like honors and stuff. I want to say my whole high school term I had AP classes, but it didn't get more intense until the upper levels, because it was back-to-back AP classes.
We at Valdosta State don't have a recommendation just because we don't require a student to take a certain amount. What I always encourage students is to do what's most comfortable for them. Some students don't have the opportunity. At their schools, they don't have the opportunity to take the AP, the honors, those types of courses. And so dual enrollment has really helped out in areas where they don't have AP or honors or IB and that sort of thing. And so more students are taking advantage of dual enrollment.
So essentially, once you hit 5 AP classes, according to research from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, there's no difference between taking 5 and taking a dozen as an indicator for success in their freshmen when they did this research. So if a student, students who had taken 5 and students who had taken a dozen, they were doing just as well.
College never even felt like an option. It was because for so long all my life it had been expected. It had always been expected. But I don't know what it was. I think it may have been my connections outside of class. I had actually gotten promotion. I worked at Kroger at the time. So I had actually gotten a small promotion at work. So I had actually developed more connections there. And I felt like I had a better future there than going to college.
I think there's this notion that, the only people who ever go on academic probation are those, who have poor pre-college preparation. And it's just not true. There are lots of reasons why this could happen, ranging from, a lack of preparation, but also, including some sort of family event that happens that throws things out. Adjusting to college is difficult, particularly if that's a big transition from your previous life, or, for people who are attending part-time and working full-time, taking care of relatives and loved ones. There's just a lot going on above and beyond the, classes you take in high school and your potential for success.
Eventually, it was August, and I seen an advertisement for our good friends at the University of Phoenix. So I was like, well, this looks cool. I don't have to leave home. It's completely virtual. It'll be fine. So, I applied, and the next week I started classes. So all the classes were asynchronous online, and I just did awful. And it's because I hated discussion posts. Like, I could do all the assignments, and that's fine, but the discussion posts would just get me every time. But overall, I just had no motivation. I didn't really care. I didn't have direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it just wasn't a good semester.
It was more like my planning. I wasn't planning things. I would forget assignments because I wouldn't have it laid out. And that's what I'm doing differently now. I'm trying to, schedule out things, have everything laid out so I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Last semester, I was just winging it.
So what was your GPA for last semester?
So 1.68, 1.68.
So they do month classes. So like you take one class for a month and you move on. And so you take 4 classes a semester, but you take them in 1 month increments. So I finished my first 2 classes. So I took the August class, the September class, and I started my October class, but I withdrew from that October class because I had a C in those first 2 classes, and then I withdrew from that October one because I was just failing. I hated it. It just didn't make sense to me. I just didn't like it. So overall, that experience from the academic side and like me personally in that time, it wasn't good because I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel like I had any reason to do the work other than to just get the degree at the end.
Student drop-off in college is not an anomaly. College presents a different set of problems than high school. Typically in high school, most students are living at home with their parents, and they have more of a little bit more of a safety net if they run into problems. And that's not necessarily true when they get off into college. They may be living further away from home. They may be working a job that requires them to work strange hours, which cuts into their homework time. So there are certainly factors in college that I think cause that drop off to happen. Immaturity is also a part of it, but I think the big life obstacles that can come up along the way are a serious component.
Long story short, there was a lot of, up until that point, it was, I didn't want to commit because the commitment was terrifying. But eventually, in October of 2017, my advisor, whoever that was, called me, who would have been my advisor, and she was like, "You want to take classes online? If you want to come in the spring in person, you can." And so I said, "Sure, I'll register for some classes online." And then there was a whole issue of registration, and once again, it fell through. So I didn't take any of those classes online for the second half of the semester. So we come to November, and literally I wake up, I had to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to the office by 8 because it's a 2-hour drive there. So I wake up and I said, I'm tired of this. I can't do this anymore. Either I need to move to Atlanta to be closer to my job, or I'm going to college. Like, it's going to be one of the two. I never considered other universities outside of Valdosta State. And then...
Yeah, so academic probation basically is the equivalent to no longer in good academic standing. And what good academic standing looked like moves, actually. So when you first get here, you have a little bit more grace period than as you're here a little bit longer. So if you look at the numbers, 1.6 and below would put you on probation within your first year if you're less than 30 credits. And then it goes up to 1.75, 1.9, and then up to a 2.0. 2.0, I think, makes some sense, right? That's the C average. And basically that probation line, that mark exists so that there's some kind of a quality control across the country when somebody graduates and shows up with a diploma, that, hey, they did at least this level of work or higher, right?
Um, I actually contacted him after I got the, message about the probation because it said to contact him, but I also wanted to get a little more detail because I'm like, what does this mean? Um, he actually told me, he said, don't worry about it. He said, because it's your first semester. It doesn't mean you get kicked out, but he says you have to do better the following semester, so it won't become a constant issue and you do have to worry about leaving, then having to stay gone for a couple months or however long it is.
What's important, I think, to know about probation is that word sometimes can feel like, oh my God, I'm in big trouble. I think the reality of probation is it does signify that stuff isn't going the way we want it to go, but you can't be dismissed being in probation in the first semester. So if you get here and you get a 1.5 and you show up in probation, you're not dismissed from the university. You're not going to be kicked out. The reality is what that does is it surrounds you with a lot of resources that we hope you take advantage of. And then you can sit down and have the conversations about, all right, hey, what happened?
The academic probation process oftentimes really involves a rethinking of career goal, major choice and goals. So it's really a good collaboration for students to start re-envisioning. Maybe they are going to still be interested in the same career, but maybe they're going to get to it a different way than what they initially thought. Or maybe they realize, okay, well, gosh, I just wanted to be a doctor because I want to help people. Well, there's a lot of ways you can help people that don't involve passing organic chemistry, right?
Choosing the right school or the right program is crucial. You could get into a program that you frankly find yourself uninterested in and start slacking off. You could go to a school that you realize is not right for you and doesn't have the right supports you need, or you find yourself surrounded by negative influences, which those can probably be found on every single campus across the US. Yeah, finding the right program is really important. And I think it starts in high school with thinking about what you're interested in. And I would, you know, I would be hesitant about declaring a major when you're applying to colleges, unless it gives you some known admissions boost, because you can always switch as soon as you arrive on campus, right? But unless it gives you some known admissions boost, I wouldn't declare a major right away. I would take time to go through the general credits and find what works for you. Um, I would also suggest that there's a lot of value in transferring to a college that is a better fit for you. And if you don't know what that is, maybe go to community college. Earn some credits there and take some time to figure it all out.
At the time, I was still a biology major, but I think I was coming more into understanding what I actually like to do. And so I think being around other biology majors and other people who had the same mindset, and Tri-Beta specifically, and the honors college too, really helped me understand what I wanted. Because that semester, it became more and more clear that I didn't want a biology degree. I didn't think it was going to be useful for my particular interests.
So intrusive advising would, really wants the student to think about where they're going and what they're doing and how, their coursework and things can help get them there, rather than the advisor sort of saying hey, here are the 4 courses I think you should take. Here you go. Have a nice day. But actually working with students, in the school setting type of manner to, see well, what are your career goals? If you don't know what your career goals, can we have a conversation around that and what you might do in terms of coursework coming up to help you gain some clarity on those issues? Or what can we do with one of these, say interest inventories, where you take something and it tells you hey, these are the sorts of majors or careers, to which you might be well suited.
At the time, I still wanted to go to medical school. But it became less and less, ironically, I didn't feel like it was going to be relevant for me to go to medical school. And then I started thinking more interdisciplinary too. And then the honors college, actually, my honors advisor told me about interdisciplinary studies. Most people don't choose interdisciplinary studies as their main major. It's usually, for most people, I'm not saying everyone, but most people, it becomes they're not doing so well in their current major, so they just do interdisciplinary and just pick up 2 other smaller majors. So that's normally how people do interdisciplinary. I voluntarily chose to be an interdisciplinary studies major. because I felt it made the most sense. Specifically, even if I go to medical school in the future, because so much of medicine is connected to your social standing and things like that. So for me, that was really important to study as well. And then the more I studied that, the more I realized that that's what I actually love, is like that sociological view of the world. And that's how here I am.
We really work with students to figure out what is within their power, what can they do within their circumstances to take better their education. You know, in this book they call it like the inner critic or the inner defender. So if the inner critic is like, oh, of course I screwed up, I'm so stupid, and that's like blaming oneself, and that doesn't do anybody any good. But the inner defender is also like the voice inside that says like, oh, that professor sucks. Like that's why she didn't let me retake the exam, and that's what academic probation. That's like blaming other people in that regard. But then there's this like, oh, the inner guide, where it's like, okay, I'm going to look at what went wrong. I'm going to see what's in my power to do better. What are my choices? Hey, next time, maybe I should change the way I study for this, or maybe I should get up earlier so I don't keep getting on the late bus that makes me late for class or whatever. But yeah, I think encouraging them to take ownership and see what's possible, very important.
I feel like during the second semester, it kind of became more like a college experience, because I know the first semester I spent most of my classes online. Like it was transitioning. One day you come to class, one day you don't, and it was back and forth. This semester, I can say I think almost all of my classes were in person.
Overall, I felt more motivated. I don't know, I think it may have been that I felt like I needed to prove to my family and to my parents that I could succeed in college. So I think it's a lot of why I ended up with such good grades that semester. When I got my midterms back, I had all A's except for in pre-calculus, I had a C.
I came into the semester, I feel like I already knew I had to fix the sleep schedule because that just wasn't working. But I feel like when it came to keys to college success, that kind of helped me put into perspective what really needs to be fixed, if you know what I mean? The whole planning, because I'm like, he said, plan out I feel like it was one of the classes, he said to plan out your week, see how that helps you. And I'm like, okay, so I did it. Helped me a lot. It's like I had everything already lined up. I knew what I had to do. So it wasn't a big stressor. So from then on, I continued to plan, and I didn't have to worry, did I miss this assignment? Did I do this? Because it was already planned out. I already knew what I had to do.
So yeah, and I mean, I think in general, the advisors are very good at having these sorts of conversations and working with students in an effective manner. One thing that I know is also sometimes a challenge is, actually getting students, to those meetings, including the students who sometimes might need it the most, and so outreach, send emails, try to contact, et cetera. And I think one of the main questions that would be great to know is what's going on with those students, who aren't, is it something, that those students are sort of embarrassed, they don't want to go to meetings, they don't know what's going on. And so they're like, I don't want to have this meeting where I basically say, I don't know what I'm doing, do they have some stuff in their life going on, that's detracting from them? Do they just not check email, on a regular basis? What exactly is happening with those students?
Yeah, so it's really kind of interesting. And I think that's one of the things that the profession of advising is trying to best figure out. Oftentimes, the people who most use advising are the ones who are already doing really well. And so it's kind of this weird, it's the people who often will go seek out tutoring. It's the student who's trying to get into a competitive program and they've got a B and they want the A, right? As opposed to that student who's really struggling and could benefit from having that resource. And so what we spend a lot of time on is how can we make sure that we're giving support to folks who are doing really kind of well naturally, and give them a level of support that allows them to continue to be successful, but then spend our bandwidth of time with the students who, if we don't intervene or have some kind of a relationship, may not be here.
And one of the reasons why academic probation is such a problem, and I mean, I've actually done some stuff afterwards showing if you don't have some sort of nice support like this, how detrimental it can be to students, because you're basically getting this strong message from the university of we're not so sure that you can succeed here.
So I actually looked at that for fall 2020 comparison to fall 2019. We did see an increase in the percentage, and so I did it by percentage. We had the largest class ever come in fall 2020, and so we were up anywhere from 5 to 10%, depending on how you how you look at it. You can move those around just a little bit depending on what student population we look at. But you're looking about a 5 to 10% increase in probation from fall 20 to fall 19. That's not hugely surprising given the pandemic.
All the evidence I've seen, both at the college and K-12 level, shows like the number of courses or the number of students who are receiving like D and F grades has gone up dramatically in the time of COVID. And I mean, dramatically, like at least 50%. And so some colleges and universities just aren't placing students on academic probation, and or they aren't using academics dismissals, or they're a lot more selective in how often they use them. So I have some data, but it's just one institution showing just these rather strong negative effects for being placed on probation at all. Because I think in some way, we have this policy, like in pretty much every institution has some sort of academic probation policy, and then they also do something to help improve students' outcomes on there. And oftentimes, the best case scenario is that retention and graduation aren't negatively affected by being placed on academic probation. But like, if the point, and I think it's an open question, what is the point of academic probation? If the point of it is to get students, to a place where they're academically successful, having a policy and then doing all this stuff, to help as a result of being placed, and then getting to right where you would have been had you not been placed on academic probation, like that doesn't seem like a very like good place to be.
Yeah, so I don't, even in the middle of a pandemic, there's still a mark that's got to be hit at some point in time, right? There's still an expectation that's there, set by the university system of Georgia, and kind of what is a commonality across the country related to levels of expectation. I think what we did very well as a campus was provide a whole lot of support to students to get help to make sure that they did as well as they could possibly do. And so we didn't move the mark of this is what it is to be in good standing, this is what it is to be in probation. But what we said is, hey, we're going to ramp up and do as much as we can, provide as many resources as we can for you to take advantage of so that we have better results. Now, again, we were down a little bit compared to fall 19, but I think there was a lot more leniency in fall 20 and a lot more grace and extension of homework assignments and ways of doing things and how many exams were being done and the ways in which we were able to assist. And I think that's where we focused, was let's provide more resources to try to make sure that as many students as possible have success, not start moving what has a line been for 100 years in terms of 2.0 and above is good standing simply because of the pandemic.
I don't think a four-year college experience is right for everyone, especially not every 18-year-old. Some may not have the maturity, quite frankly, to make it through. And a four-year degree doesn't align with the workforce needs either. The economy needs plumbers and HVAC techs and IT staff. And a lot of those skills can be gained at community colleges or vocational schools. So I think training after high school is important, but I certainly don't think that means everyone needs to go to a four-year school.